Let's go ahead and, oh, look at that. Let's go ahead and call the meeting of the Fargo Public Library Board to order. This is the November meeting. I'm Scott Beaulieu, and let's go ahead and just start by checking in on who is here. So Scott Beaulieu is here, Carlos Hawley.
Here.
Rachel Steenholt. Kristen Schipper.
Here.
Jenna Reno.
Here.
Carrie Peterson.
Here on phone.
And Amy, I'm going to struggle with your last name.
It's Oren.
Amy Oren.
Yes.
Okay,
present.
Great to have you as a new member, and thank you for joining the board.
Yeah.
So yeah, we appreciate it. So if I could have a motion to approve the order of the agenda.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none, we will move on to minutes of the October 19th meeting. Any comments or concerns with the minutes? Okay, if we could have a motion to approve the minutes of the October 19th meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as is.
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, no, that passes. So we will move to staff report with Megan.
You have my report in your packet. But I'll just highlight a few things. Staffing has been pretty tight the last couple of weeks, with a couple of people out because of children being close contacts and things like that, but hopefully things are getting better. We have a new person that just started in the cataloging department, Abigail Keys, and we're just starting the hiring process for a full-time position in the reference department, and that will be a newly created position, funded as of the first of the year. A couple of events I want to highlight. Usually December is a little bit low for events just because everyone is busy or traveling with the holidays. But the Red River Model Railroad Club will be filling the downtown community room with their model trains this coming Saturday. It's open to the public from 10 to 5. This is always a great event that appeals to everyone from kids to their grandparents. So we're glad that we're able to host it again this year. We're going to have gingerbread house decorating events for both children and adults. Kids events are on December 1st at Northport and December 2nd at Carlson. The session for adults will be December 4th at the main library downtown. The kids events are already full, but there are spots open on the waiting list. Registration for the adult event opens on the 20th. There's also craft workshops for all ages coming up in December, on December 11th. Kids in grade 1 to 6 are invited to make family keepsake ornaments. Teens will be making gnome ornaments December 18th, and adults are welcome to register for a take and make snowflake wreath craft. So registration for all of those events opens next week. Other than that, we've really been focusing on getting events ready to start after the first of the year. We're hoping that COVID lets up a little bit so we can do more in-person events. Do any of you have questions for me?
We should add a gingerbread house making for the kids, because I get really tired of doing it in my house. It becomes an adult activity that's pretty awful after they get sticky and give up in about 2 minutes. Any questions? The train thing looks really cool, so I'm assuming you're going to have a full house for that.
Probably. There usually has been in years past.
Thank you. Moving along, the director's report, Tim.
Yes. You see my report per the packet there. The big discussion, and kind of touching on some of Megan's comments, we are impacted currently in terms of COVID. We have 3 staff impacted, certainly not related to any work activity, but breakthrough cases with family and impacts on child care. So, and again, on top of that, when you have other staff out for other illnesses and whatnot, it becomes quite significant in terms of covering staff, all the hours that we have. In light of those challenges, and we have been meeting as an admin team with Human Resources to really analyze, and I think I might have brought this up in other library board meetings per my report, is really starting to really drill down and identify where the gaps are and really develop a plan from there. So obviously the challenge then is once that's is getting obviously additional positions funded, which has always been very lean on the city side. So, but you know, continue to define the problem and identify where we need the resources and work towards getting those resources filled.
Cool. Thank you. Tim, do you want to continue, or do we want to move to new business here? I guess new business is next, hey?
We can go right to new business. That's
Okay.
fine.
Yep. So let's go ahead and look at these policies. So a couple of new ones to review. The unattended children's policy. Do you want to walk us through that?
Yeah, and this, when it comes to libraries, this is an extremely necessary and standard policy for us in other libraries. And I'm sure everyone having read it, it's pretty straightforward. Obviously, we've had to employ it, and sometimes more just of a reminder to parents of their responsibilities vis-a-vis the library. And it really sets that boundaries there, and I think it's absolutely a necessary policy to have, and it's been very helpful as we've served the public in that regard. I don't have any identified changes. Again, this is one for the review.
Any comments or thoughts on this?
I have a question. This policy has been working well for you?
Yes.
Far?
Yes, I think the key thing, especially, it's oftentimes not the most dire situations, but you have a parent on the computer and the kids are out doing what they're doing, as kids would want to do, and it's more of just to remind them and say, hey, you know, here's what we need you to do per the policy, and it helps. Obviously, we've had in the past kids there at the locations right at closing, and there's no one there, and we have to, you know, get the police. I mean, that hasn't happened often, but it has happened, and it's really important for staff and parents, like I said, that they have this in place. So in some cases, it's more of a reminder. Some of it's really a structural to ensure everyone's safe.
Any other thoughts? So this is an action item here, so we would need a motion and a second.
But do we move to approve it or to accept or to continue?
Except as reviewed.
As is.
So moved.
I'll second.
All of those of you in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, hearing none, the policy is approved as is. So moving on, Tim, the next one is a volunteer program policy review.
Right, and again, volunteers do a lot of wonderful work for our organization, you know, with roles of shelving and also providing outreach to taking library materials out to various locations. But this kind of puts it in, you know, kind of a fallback if we have an issue, which we haven't, thank goodness, but kind of puts that into perspective and kind of delineating between volunteer service and paid staff and kind of making that delineation, which is very important for any organization utilizing volunteers. And I guess this is one that may have fell through the cracks because it hasn't been reviewed since 2013. So certainly good to get it on the board agenda for review.
Tim, could you talk a little about number 5.5 there? It seems a bit vague. Maybe it's deliberate. I don't know.
In terms of how long they...
The length of volunteer placement.
Sure. I guess, you know, oftentimes the big one with that is with the outreach folks that volunteer. We need at least, because of the training involved, we try and get at least 6 months or more from folks in that regard. So that's the important delineation. Obviously, shelving folks. We've had some long-term shelving volunteers that can continually support us, but that has a little bit more turnover, obviously. But for the outreach, the folks that take the items out to those various organizations and communities, we need a longer commitment.
Okay, I'm not sure that it says that though. I mean, this seems pretty descriptive, which is fine if that's what you mean to do. The rest of it seems to be instructive.
In my mind, it kind of defines both, that they can be both long-term and short-term. And just kind of, the other thing is, if somebody says they're going to do X, Y, and Z, there's a certain level of expectation in CERT. If they can't make it, then, and they're not making those hours, obviously we still need the book shelved and this kind of thing, so.
Are there other comments?
Yeah, I have a question about when you choose and not choose to do a background check on someone. So if you have volunteers working with children, are they
We really don't have volunteers work.
working with children? Okay.
It's strictly shelving and outreach to
Okay.
retirement. Now, obviously, that relationship, yeah, there's a lot of background checks.
Right, okay.
Are the Friends volunteers, or is that a separate?
They're volunteers to the Friends. They're a separate 501c3.
Okay.
So that's kind of their situation.
Hearing no other comments, is there a motion to accept the policy as is? Or any other motion?
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the policy as is.
I'll second that.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay, hearing none, the motion passes. So Tim, back to you for statistical reports.
Right, October usage, again, we're looking at October of this year, obviously, in comparison with October of 2020. I see that in terms of attendance, program attendance. It's good to have the volunteer hours back online per our previous conversation as opposed to 2020. Internet sign-up still down a little bit. In terms of overall circulation, up around 2,600 over October of 2020. Year to date, up a little almost to 21%. Again, as we talked about last month, looking at comparison to 2019, it's down. I think what I'll do for the board is in January show kind of the year comparison of 21 to 19 and kind of get that picture. I think month to month it may not be as dramatic, but I think we'll look at that comparison in January of 22.
Any questions on usage? All right, and moving along to financials.
Yes, looking at the donation summary, on the revenue side, we received $50 for the endowment in memory of Ronald By, and then an unrestricted total donations of $43, 10 of which was for reference service. Somebody donated because they received such good reference service. And somebody just donated $33 at the desk. So the $43 is unrestricted. On the expense side, you can see $795 for One Book, One Community ads. And we can thank the Friends for that, for those resources to spend on One Book, One Community. And the next one was $250 for the children's countertop spinners from Aletha LePay donation for that. $25 for Crafternoons, and thank the Friends for that donation. And the $1,214, 965 of it was Wonder Books from anonymous donor for Northport, and $249 for Northern Narrative copies. Again, thank you for the friends for that. And the other big one there, the $30 on the expense side for the Way to Go gift cards for staff acknowledgement. And again, thank the friends for that. So that's on the donation summary. In terms of overall budget, through the end of October, 83% of the year lapsed, and looking at overall aggregate budget expended just under 80%. Obviously, monitoring that on the way out, we have purchased some new staff chairs for workspaces and a few other things, knowing in terms of looking at where the budget would net out. Final thing, just a little more left on the grant there for the gardens with the Park District. You can see an expenditure out of $130 in October in that regard. And revenue being year-to-date just over $16,000.
So, Tim, remind me again on, so you just hired Abigail Keys. Is that a replacement, or did you just go through asking for new things?
No, that position existed.
Okay.
And the person that family just moved on, and so that was just an open. There was an existing position in the budget. We just filled it.
And when is the time period for making new budget requests, and what are your key priorities there?
The budget process starts. It's gotten earlier and earlier in the year. I think May, June of the year. This last time, my big priorities were, again, looking at kind of a systemic impact on the organization. And one of the situations that we have, and it's kind of a legacy of when the Fargo Public Library was a single location, of numerous people that have library degrees in different, that are head of different departments, having to work at the reference desk because you have two people, nights, evenings, weekends, all those things have to be covered. And for 22, I asked for 2 full-time LA3 reference associates that would kind of work, their primary job would be to cover those hours and move those people to their primary responsibilities in their departments. I think, again, so the timeline for the budget is basically May, June, and have it all wrapped up and presented by July. I think going forward, obviously, with the work we're doing with HR to kind of narrow, really boil it down, we knew we were short-staffed to begin with. I think every city department is, basically. But I think what we're running into is a lot of part-time folks used to be really flexible in terms of their times and their availabilities. We're not seeing that anymore. And you see all the jobs that are open and everybody's kind of having that issue. We're not having an issue hiring people or having people apply to our jobs. It's just the flexibility within limited staffing based on the hours and everything that we're trying to do. So I think I'll have a better picture of that coming out of that discussion with HR, sitting down with the admin team, boiling the gap hours that we're identifying into individual positions and identify priorities from there. Okay. So we'll have time, obviously, to have that conversations and identify those things before next late spring, early summer.
Thank you. Other questions on financials? Okay, that brings us to the Friends of the Library report. And you did that, correct? Or not really?
No, the Friends, no, there's not a friend represented here. They did have a fairly successful book sale a while back, so we're happy about that.
Anything else from anyone? Okay, we have public comment. And we have Mr. Cohen from the public. Come on up.
I do often attend various meetings throughout the city, and I'm often an advocate for what's called open society and open government. And so it's sort of the opposite side of the coin to our authoritarian government structures. And you could think of that as dictatorships and societies controlled by religions, but even democracies are often authoritarian and often secretive. So the point, though, that I came here to discuss was the statement of concern process, where someone, if they disagree with something being in the collection, an item, that they can put in a statement of concern, and then it goes to the statement of concern committee, and then it comes, and they make a recommendation, and then it comes here for a vote. So I was involved in one of these for the first time ever this year, and it was never clear to me that they made the statement of concern committee meeting, that they ever made a ruling on one of my points within the concern. It was about 4 Dr. Seuss books. One of the points was that these are outdated material, and they never discussed it. Instead, they pointed me to go and look up the policy, which I did, but that was after the meeting. And then when I came here to the board meeting, there was very little discussion here. I know, Carlos, you did talk a little bit about what the things I had brought up, but you mainly said you disagreed with everything, but I didn't know why. But you did tell me about one thing you disagreed with. But I think here there should be an encouragement of discussion. Firstly, so the first thing was that they should be required to, in their reasoning on the statement of concern, when they put a suggestion to the board, that they give their reasons to each point within the statement of concern. And then secondly, that there be an appeal process. Because in my case, it seemed like they didn't address the concern fully, and then it was done, and there was no appeal possible. So, and I think there could be a discussion here on the board, and I think that can't be required, but I think leadership could encourage it, because there are really interesting issues around these issues dealing with censorship and so forth. Thank you.
Thank you. No other public here to comment, so it looks like our next regular meeting is December 21st, and if there's nothing else, we will adjourn.